Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Git Good at OpenRCT2. In this episode I want to show you how to make a sort of realistic and nice looking bobsleigh roller coaster. Now, before I actually begin building, I should probably say some things. Well, first off, it might be tempting to just put it in a snowy landscape. It's what I often see people do, but actually most of these bobsleigh coasters are actually just placed in normal parks. Also, they are not all white. Some of them actually have some pretty wild colors, and yeah, there's actually quite a lot you can do with these coasters. So there's quite a lot of freedom in the layouts that you can make. Now, yeah, I'm just going to show some stuff that you could do with the bobsleigh coaster. Now, of course, you're gonna start with the station. Now, there's several different types of bobsleigh coasters. You have the ones from, I believe, from Intamin. Those typically use 6-seater bobsleighs. So, yeah, when you use these, typically your layout will look different from when you use the normal bobsleigh trains. So usually you'll want to have more cars per train for these. So yeah, what you'll usually want to do in your layout, well, obviously, before I continue, the size of your station should probably also depend on the size of your cars. When you have a long train, of course, you'll want a longer station. And for these 6-seater bobsleighs, you can of course simply make a small station. So, for now, I'm just going to show you how to make something using these bobsleigh trains. But yeah, like I said, you can also use longer trains or shorter trains. Well, from the station, you'll obviously want to do a chain lift. Now, for these coasters, I wouldn't go too high, because yeah, a lot of the height difference will be covered with helixes, and you really don't want to make it look like a spaghetti. Quite a few of these bobsleigh coasters actually have their station quite high off the ground, and then they also finish with a chain lift. But yeah, that's really up to you. With these coasters, you have quite a lot of freedom in the layout. I'll just make the station up to here. Now, I usually just start off with a short drop, and then just like a big helix, maybe a smaller helix as well. But yeah, this is just something you could do. And here, for example, you could put another helix, or you could do some block breaks here. Now, with these coasters, obviously they're not attached to the track. So if you have negative g-forces that are too high, then the coaster will fly off the track and crash. So that's really something you'll have to avoid in these coasters. Now, one thing you should take into account before actually building your coaster is that you need quite a high maximum speed in order for the coaster to get good stats. I believe you need something like 1.20 lateral Gs at least, and I believe you need 42 kilometers per hour at least in your coaster. So yeah, in your coaster, just try to make sure that it has a point where it goes reasonably fast, or else you'll be stuck with a coaster in the end that has like 2 in every stat. Now, something else I can advise is to just look at a few real bobsleigh coasters. There's a lot of information on the internet about them. There's lots of pictures. On rcdb.com you can look up a lot of layouts of these coasters, and you can probably find one or two that might be interesting. Now, what I like to do for these coasters is to divide them into 3 or 4 sections. each separated with block breaks. So why I like to do that is just they make sure that the coaster doesn't go too fast anywhere, and it also just looks nice in general. So I'm just going to quickly make a layout here. I'm not going to think too much about it. I'm just going to start with a small drop here. Let's do a big helix here so we cover some ground. Now we don't want to make the track look like a big spaghetti, so yeah, leave some room in the layout and just make sure that it is quite easy to follow. So let's do another helix here. So this will be the start of the coaster. Now we covered quite some elevation change here. So I think here we can go up again and then do a little block break section here. Now I like to make these block break sections the same length as the train, just so they can be stopped safely here. Now here I also covered some ground towards the middle, so if I do some other helixes here, they will be a bit away from these and it will not look like a big spaghetti. Something else that will usually look really nice with these coasters is to do some nice landscaping under them. You could put the coaster on the side of a mountain, or even let it go through a little cave, or have a little waterfall pass over the track. There's lots of stuff you can do with landscaping on these coasters. Now here I'm just going to do a double helix. Now bobsleigh coasters are one of the few coasters where stacked helixes will often actually look quite good. I wouldn't recommend it on most other coasters, but yeah, for bobsleigh coasters I think it's a good idea to actually do it. Don't overdo it, but it can be nice to use this. Use stacked helixes in one or two places. So yeah, I think this will be a pretty cool entry, or a cool element for the guests to traverse through. Here at the end of this helix, it will be going quite fast, since it has a height difference of around 10 meters here. Now one thing that is annoying about these coasters is that you cannot do diagonal elements, so you'll have to do everything with helixes and straight parts of track. Now I believe the coaster cannot actually fly off in normal bends, but it is usually a good idea to just use banked turns. They can fly off if you have too high negative g-forces. Anyway, I'm just going to go upwards here again a bit, just so we can put another block break section here. And then here it will be time for the finale of the ride. Now this is just a really simple layout, but it could be nice to have it interact with some objects here. In my mega park I also made a bobsleigh kind of like this. I also divided it in 3 sections. So first I had quite a gentle section, then I had a section with 4 helixes that were following each other. And then in the final section, I think it reached its highest speed and it would go in and out of several tunnels. Of course, this is just one way to do one of these coasters. You could also go for something that looks more like a coaster flying turns at, I believe it's at Knobel's Park. It's just a really tight sequence of helixes and turns that whip the trains around. It's really a coaster I would like to ride at some point in my life. Okay, I'm just going to finish up this coaster here with a block break section. But yeah, this is just to give you an idea what one of these coasters could look like. Some of these coasters, like the one in Blackpool Pleasure Beach, I don't think they have any block breaks at all. It's just one continuous track. I believe it also runs one train. Maybe it runs two trains, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a little bit lower and there's no block breaks in between. How you do it is really up to you. If you use the 6-seater bobsleigh trains, then it might be a good idea to use just single block break sections in between. Because you don't need 3 following sections if your train is only 1 tile long. Now we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 block sections here, so we could have 4 trains. I always recommend running 1 or 2 trains less than the amount you can actually have. So many people just make their bobsleigh coaster white or icy blue, something like that. I actually like to play a bit with the colors. Now the one in my mega park, it was actually brown with I believe it had green trains. Or maybe I even gave every train a different color. I don't really remember, to be honest. But yeah, one thing I actually like to do is to have a bit of a wilder color scheme. So let's see. You could, for example, go for let's go for green. This is barely visible like this. Well, it's probably more visible in the track. So, for example, you could alternate some of these colors, for example, or use a different color for your just for your helixes, something like that. I think it will look cool if you do that. This is just a suggestion. You don't have to do this, but it's just something that I really like doing on my coasters. Something like this, for example. It's just an idea. But yeah, it's just to give you an idea of the stuff that you can do with these coasters. You could also alternate the colors on the lift hill. Now, for these coasters, you can also do interesting stuff with the supports. Usually, for these coasters, the supports are simply poles, but you could also do something with these lattice supports. So, for example, let's do something like this. I don't know. I'm just really playing around here now. I should probably disable the clearance checks. Or you could make like multiple of these. I don't know. I'm just messing around here now, but yeah, you can go crazy with the supports if you want. You could also make a catwalk here under the lift hill. You could, for example, use multi-dimension coaster for that, or you could use like wooden coaster track for it. You can really make it as crazy as you want. I think this actually looks kind of cool. Oh, I didn't actually test the ride. Let's give it a quick whirl. So yeah, I don't actually know what kind of speeds it's going to reach. Oh yeah, it's now at 43 kilometers per hour. Now that's good enough to get some decent stats on your coaster. So I believe 42 kilometers per hour is the minimum for you to get some average stats. Now also here at the top of these hills, I try to make sure that it isn't going too fast, so it won't actually fly off the track here. Now I also try to make sure that it doesn't have to wait at any of the block sections, because then you get some nice throughput. I always dislike it when a coaster has to wait on one of its block sections in order to be able to pass to the next one. But it looks like now they can just keep going. But yeah, this is just a short tutorial on how to make a nice bobsleigh coaster. So yeah, things to remember: try not to make it look like a spaghetti. Play a bit with the color schemes. Just a white bobsleigh coaster probably isn't the most interesting to watch unless you're going for a realism. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. Just play around with it and try to make the layout look interesting and clean. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it's useful for you, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.